we have out of Rome a story of the Vatican beginning to give formal recognition to the Society of St. Pius X. This is not you're formally regularized, conflict is over, here's maybe a bishop to oversee things that is somebody that you'll like and have some new bishops, and it's nothing like that. But if that's going to happen, if it's going to happen slowly before their bishops retire, or can't really retire because of the situation they're in, but before they go to their judgment, then this might be the first step. This is a landmark thing. It's worth talking about. The position of the SSPX in the church has been really misrepresented by people. I am pro-SSPX. I'm also pro-FSSP. I am pro-traditional Latin Mass. There are differences between the organizations. They are in kind of conflict with each other, but their situations need to be discussed and worked out behind the scenes between the bishops and between the professionals and the ecclesiastics. A lot of the partisan nature of the FSSP, SSPX debate I find completely flabbergasting, because lay people are not part of the SSPX or the FSSP. You might go to Mass with them, you might be registered at their parish, but you're not SSPX and you're not FSSP unless you are ordained or maybe a seminarian. But the situation needs to be resolved in the background. And maybe, just maybe, this is a sign of good things to come. We go here to that notorious rad trad website, the Catholic Herald, being sarcastic, by the way, with the headline, SSPX Pilgrimage for Jubilee endorsed by Vatican despite canonical dispute. Now, the Catholic Herald is not a great news outlet, but it's very mainstream. They tend to, I think, be kind of like a softer American magazine on a lot of things, and you kind of saw it in that headline, the doctrinal dispute. The doctrinal dispute they have is on some points about Vatican II and its implementation, the documents of the Council and its implementation. They say they are fine with 80% or 90% of the statements in the documents of Vatican II, but there are some very serious hang-ups there that keep them from being just full submission to Rome. Error has no rights, one of the oldest axioms in the church. And it's these disputes that have kept things where they are, and the SSPX officially has no canonical position. What that means is they're in canonical limbo. They exist. Bishops working on behalf of the Vatican have sent observers or have acted as observers to the SSPX seminaries and have reported that what they are teaching their priests is 100% Catholic. They don't even have a schismatic attitude about things, really. They offer the Mass in the name of the Pope. They pray for him at their Masses. They express their love for him. If you watch SSPX defenders, usually from their priests, explaining their situation, they liken it to a situation of this. If your father gives you an order, you are to obey it, generally speaking, correct? But if your father gave you an order while intoxicated, he'd had entirely too much to drink, and your father gave you an order to do something outlandish, would you do it? Probably not. That is their analysis of the situation, that all the popes of the last 60 years have imbibed of the errors of modernism to some degree. And as such, they're drunk on modernism, and they're not going to follow their orders that conflict with the faith. That's their position. You may not like it, but that's the position they take, and it's not a schismatic position, at least not in my book. Here are the details about the SSPX Jubilee pilgrimage being endorsed by the Vatican. This is actually a big deal, and it was published on August 13th, 2025. The Vatican's official Jubilee 2025 calendar is currently listing a pilgrimage by the priestly fraternity of St. Pius X, with the occasion marking a rare moment of visible accord following long-running tensions between the SSPX and the Vatican. According to the SSPX website for Great Britain, the pilgrimage on 21st of August will include a public rosary at Colloquio, a solemn high mass at 9:30 a.m., and a procession entering the holy door of the Archbasilica of St. John Lateran. The SSPX, founded by Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre in November 1970 in Switzerland, operates with a mission to preserve the traditional Latin Mass and pre-Vatican II liturgy, which includes training priests committed to tradition and what the organization describes as the Mass of all time. Despite being declared canonically irregular by the Vatican, that is an accurate way to describe it, and I applaud them for this. Usually you say that they media will use harsher ways and inaccurate ways, but canonically irregular is a good way to describe it. with one of the main controversies being Archbishop Lefebvre's 1988 consecration of bishops without papal mandate. The SSPX remains active. Guided by its current Superior General, Father David Pagliarani, the SSPX has over 700 priests, 268 seminarians, and a total membership exceeding of 1,100 as of 2022. And the membership is not the lay people, because lay people are not members of the SSPX. These are going to be their seminarians, their priests, retired priests, and others who have a formal position in the organization. The SSPX has staged similar visits to Rome and the Vatican before. In 1975 and in 2000, meaning 25 years apart, the SSPX pilgrims were permitted to enter the major basilicas, including St. Peter's. In 2014, the group was allowed to celebrate Mass in the Chapel of the Presentation at the altar under which St. Pius X is entombed. Though this is the first time in recent memory that the SSPX has appeared in official online Jubilee listings, which are maintained by the Vatican's Evangelization Office. At the same time, this Holy See has previously stressed that inclusion does not imply endorsement. During a 2024 controversy over a Vatican-listed James Martin-type pilgrimage, Vatican spokesperson Agnès Palamucci told Reuters they are not sponsored activities. The 2025 Jubilee, which began on 24th of December 2024 with the opening of the Holy Door at St. Peter's Basilica, and which will conclude on the 6th of January 2026 with the closing of the Holy Door at the same Basilica, saw 545,000 people pass through St. Peter's Holy Door in the first 2 weeks, with more than 1.3 million throughout the Jubilee's opening month. Yada, yada, yada. It goes on. And that this is a key point here. Traditional Latin Mass groups are already participating in the Jubilee year, with the Institute of Christ the King Sovereign Priest having undertaken a pilgrimage to Rome from the 8th to the 10th of May. Given the underlying tensions between the SSPX and Vatican remain unresolved, the rare moment of visibility for the former could prove significant by bringing to the surface long-standing tensions between tradition and ecclesiastical unity, as well as the internal church debates going on over potential reconciliation. It's an interesting article because it also happens in time where, up until the passing of Pope Francis, there were rumors that Francis was on the verge of granting them their bishops that they'd asked for, to the point where names had been submitted and Vatican generally approving. We don't know where things stand with Leo, but if this is any indication, it's a positive place to be. So maybe offer a prayer of thanksgiving later today to see, just as a prayer of thanksgiving for this, even if it's just a small step in a good direction, while also recognizing that this happened 25 years before in 2000 and 25 years before that in 1975. So it'll be the third of these kinds of Jubilee pilgrimages that they are doing. But it is good to see that this is happening. Now, I'm very curious what you think of this, so let me know. This is... I'm looking for good news these days. I really am. And I will also ask for your prayers at this time, because my family and I are about to embark on a road trip. I will continue having content on this channel and doing live streams, actually. I did a working one of these kind of last year with family, and we're doing it again this year. I'm going to be traveling through the Southwest. So I'll be reporting to you from hotel rooms like I did last summer. And I will ask for your prayers for safe travels this time. But I'm curious, though, in as a general rule, what you think about the situation with the SSPX being given access to and recognized officially on the Vatican calendar for their pilgrimage for the Jubilee year. I think pretty much that it's a very good thing. Dub asks, what is the Catholic Church's official point on prophecy? What do you mean by that? Does the Church believe that OT-type prophecy is still in play? Well, there have been numerous mystics that I've covered on this channel who have approved, meaning not objected to by the Vatican, matters of prophecy that they have spoken on. Marie Julie Jehani, others. And by approved, I mean these are blesseds whose visions and mystical experiences and prophecies were known and investigated by the Vatican, and they still elevated them to be blessed. So I would suggest that that is sort of informal, tacit approval. Formal approval on these things almost never happens. Almost never. But they never objected to them. They never told people to stay away. Does prophecy still happen? Yeah, they do, in a way, say that does still happen, but it's so rarely looked into by the Vatican that I have a general rule. Ongoing prophecies, any currently running apparition, currently running mystic out there claiming themselves to be a mystic, giving you messages from Our Lady, especially been doing it for a long time, And almost as if it's like their cottage industry, I would suggest people keep an arm's distance. It's entirely too easy to fake a Marian apparition or claims of mysticism. Entirely too easy. All you have to do to make it believable is be well-versed in what approved or otherwise kind of sort of approved mystics and prophets have said in the past, and then just kind of write things that sound like that. You won't run into a situation where you're conflicting with the faith anymore. And that's usually the big hang-up. It's all too easy. So I would not recommend people pay any attention to ongoing mysticism, with some exceptions. There are always exceptions. But I'm curious, as a general rule, what you think about all this in the comments. And pray for the SSPX and for the dialogue between them and the Vatican, so that this situation with them can be healed in a way that accords to God's will. It is God's will in this and in all things that we should be most concerned with. And as always, pray for the church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.